Hello, I'm Julie, and I hope you've been tuning in for my color series tutorials. We are on the Triadic colors, and today I'm going to do orange, green, and purple. And in the beginning of this series, we'd done the primary colors, which are red, yellow, and blue. And then we had done the secondary colors, which are orange, violet, and green. And we had focused just on those individual colors and what you can do with those colors. And now we are doing the triadic colors, where we're using 3 colors and showcasing what you can do with those colors. So triadic colors are anything on the color wheel that is in a threesome. So it doesn't matter where you are in the color wheel, you're just going in this triangle. So there's that triangle with yellow, orange, blue, green, and violet, red, yellow, and blue, orange, violet, and green, and so on. So it's a triangle. And so today, as I said, it's orange, violet, and green. And orange, violet, and green are secondary colors, and red, blue, and yellow are primary colors. Primary meaning that you can't create those. Secondary colors meaning that you can create them by mixing primaries together. So yellow and red, half and half mixed together, makes orange. Yellow and blue, half and half, makes green. And blue and red makes violet. So those are our secondary colors, and we discussed that in the secondary colors. But now we are going to be using these colors in a design together. So the first thing I'm going to do is talk about how you really do need a color wheel when you're working on this project and learning color. And we're using colored pencils, and I'm using Holbein, but it doesn't matter what colored pencil you use. Just have a nice selection so that you can pick colors when you're working with your color wheel and working on this tutorial that come very, very close to the color that is represented here on this color wheel. And all color wheels are alike. That green is always going to be the same. The violet is always going to be the same on any color wheel, and the orange is always going to be this orange. So train your eye to find that color. That's your job on this whole tutorial, is to train your eye. And so those are the values. That means that really intensely is the purest form of that color. It's the richest form, the deepest color. And when we shade, we are creating a hue or the pastel of it. That's why it's nice to learn to shade, because it's a nice way of blending. Of course, these hues can be made by pastel pencils. By colored pencils in the light pastel form or hue. But we're creating it by shading. And shading is when you practice shading. It's when you use a very light touch. And shading is best done by twirling your pencil instead of going back and forth like this. So you have a tendency to create lines when you go up and down like this, where if you twirl your pencil when shading, you get an overall color, and then you can go back and forth on this. So it's nice to have a little chart here. And to practice your shading, start with a light touch with 1, go heavier for 2, heavier for 3. I'm going to build 2 up a little bit, thus building up 3 a little bit, heavier for 4. And this is where I build up. Heavier for 5. And very heavy for 6. So I'm at that full value. Notice I go over this and I just lighten. So I've got a nice shaded range. And then I want to talk about the primaries. I mean the complements. Any color on the color wheel has a complement. And that is any color directly across from it. So orange is blue, yellow, orange is blue, violet, yellow is violet, yellow, green is red, violet, green is red, blue, green is red, orange, blue is orange, yellow, orange is blue, violet, and it doesn't matter, you know, blue, violet is yellow, orange is blue, violet. So any, the complementary color is across from the color wheel, and complementary means that those colors, let's take red and blue. I mean, blue and the complement is orange. Those colors look really well together. They complement each other. They work really well in a design together. Okay, so here's our 3 colors that we're working with. And I also want to talk about in this lesson, because we're getting a little more complex, is how to make neutrals with these. So if I take my orange and shade with it, if I blend my blue complement with my orange color, the color we're working with today, and build that up, I will create a nice neutral, a nice brown. And just build it up and build it up. The more blue in it, the cooler the brown. The more orange in it, the warmer the brown. And let's see. That color that I create with that, I can pick a colored pencil that matches that very well. And that's how you make neutrals. Now, I'm going to talk about white and black. Whenever I introduce white to a color, white is means the absence of color, and it's also a color that you can't create. It represents the absence of color, but we can buy them. And so this is a colored pencil that's white, and I can also create hues by adding white. So if I go over a total value of it where it's in its purest form and add white, I can get white the same as if I can get shading. So there's 2 ways to create a light version. I can also take that white and put it over my neutral, and that's where I create a nice gray. And I can find grays in colored pencils too. So that's how our color wheel works. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the neutrals created with these colors. And I think I have done this in past in past videos too, but I just want to bring this home to you for you to understand. So violet, the complement is yellow, and when I blend those 2 together, I get a nice brown. And that can be a nice tan color. Look at that. That's a nice tan color, and I found a pencil that represents it. When I put white over it, I get dropped on the floor, a nice gray. And now let's go to green. Green's complement is red. They bring out each other, the best in each other, and I shade and I build up over this. That's gonna make a really nice, dark, rich brown. The more red in that, the warmer the red, the more green in it, the cooler the green. And that color can be represented by this nice, let's put a little more green in that so you can, a little more red in that, so you can see how I got really close to that color. Then let's come over with the white, and we're creating a, let's see, a gray. I'm looking for a gray that I like that, whoops, that's a silver. There. So that's how we're working. And now we're going to do one more thing. We're going to put our complements away, and we're going back to the colors that we are working with today in our triadic field, which is violet, green, and orange. And I'm going to take these using shading and create an ombre feel and show you what I can accomplish with this, what happens. So I'm going to be shading this. And when I mix orange and green together, we'll see what happens. We're going to get a nice olivey green. See how that's kind of brown, kind of olivey green? Let me pick a color. See how that has a nice olivey tone to it? And if I take blue over orange, well, purple, I meant purple. Sorry, I messed up. Purple over orange. I'm going to show you the changes that happen here. I'm going to get this orangey violet color. I feel like I really messed that up, so I'm going to move this down and start over with for you. Here, we're starting with our orange. We're taking our green and overlapping it over it, shading, getting that nice olivey color, and then going to the pure green. And then for our violet over here, we're building up over that. And we're creating this wonderful, reddy, warm, magenta-y violet. Let's see if I can find a color. It's like a warm wine color. Let's get that warm wine color in there. And that, what I created here was a nice olivey color. So that's what we're going to be working with today, and this is going to be this is a wonderful selection of colors that can help you introduce new colors to your palette. So now we're going to progress to using the colors that we explored on our Shrinkit beads. So the first one I'm going to do, I'm just going to use these basic colors and design it just using values. No shading, no nothing, just using these as values. So I'm just going to showcase on this one how that would look, and that's just a beginner way of approaching a design using your values and your triadic colors, and just exploring how you feel about that, and pushing yourself into another realm of color exploration. There we go. Whoops. And that's fun color. And so on this one, I'm going to push on this one. I'm going to explore shading and then what we had discovered when we can create other colors. So remember how when we in the last in the introduction to this, at the beginning of this tutorial, I had talked about how you can overlap your colors, thus creating different colors. This being this wine red, and this here coming in with a olivey green. And I'm going to build that up a little bit so I can really experience the changes of color within this spectrum. I want you to really be able to see the spectrum change here. So I'm building up by shading. And I had talked about how instead of going to the process of shading to create these colors, do you see how that's really coming out, the range? That you can select colors from your colored pencils that represent these colors created, and train your eye. I'm going to select some, and I'm going to train my eye and say, which one do I think comes closest? Here's one color choice, and then here's another color choice. And I believe it's this one that has been created. Then I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to select some greens, some olivey greens, and say, which one do I think comes closest? And I think it's this one. So instead of shading to create those colors, I'm going to go the easy route and just add those to my color selection. and I'm gonna use shading in this so that they're not all values like I chose here. But I will quickly show you on this one what happens when I add in those colors created by blending. We've suddenly gone in a direction that we would have possibly never thought as a beginning colorist that we would use. And that is a wonderful color palette. These just have a feeling like it's in a vineyard. It's just, to me, lovely. And you would not have really expected that from if somebody handed you these colors. And that's just in knowing. Okay, on this one, I'm going to talk about how I will pick a main focal color of this bead and then use the other colors as accents. So I'm going to make this one predominantly violet. And then I'm going to use the orange as my next color, but not as much of it in the design, and then green as an accent. And I can use these colors anywhere I choose also. So let's start by I'm making these a little bigger, and I've decided to go pure value on this. To really make a broad statement with the violet. And then I'm going to come in here with shading. And of course, let's talk about this. I could have picked a pale color to represent that shaded color. And I'm going to introduce that so that if you don't want a shade, look how close that color comes. Just lay your colors down and say, can I find that color? So I don't have to, do so much shading. I'm going to build up over that to smooth out my colors. And let's say I wanted to do the same with the green. Let's find a green that looks, well, whoa, that's really close right there, but I'm going to show you another color so you can train your eye. Not as close. So let's introduce this in this manner. It's just the hue of the green. And this is the value of the violet and the hue of the orange. But then I can come over here with the value of the orange. I'm just going to come in here, get a broader tip on this, and just shade on down in there. And then I'm just gonna come in here with little crosses of my value over my hue. So I've introduced all colors: purple, violet, orange, and green. Now I'm going to come in with the orange and green mixed together, which I had chosen to be this color. This green, I had picked it. And just like on this one here, I'm coming in with what looks like I made a little mistake there. So I can get my eraser out and quickly fix that. I had put my oranges right here to these creases. Now I'm going to come in here, right here, with the wine color. And I'm going to put the wine color in between these greens. Always missing one. And I know when you're watching the video, it's pretty easy to see that. So, here we go. Equally as nice, really exploring our triadic colors and the blendings that they make. Next, I'm going to shrink these down, and we'll be making a beaded dangle out of them. So I'm going to be putting shiny down, and when you shrink, put your heat gun about the top of the glide pin, and always heat around the perimeter and go straight down. When I showcase this on the video, I want you to be able to see it, so I'm going to go at an angle, and I'm going to put this little piece up here so that the heat doesn't blow totally away and comes back onto my bead. And I see, I did it again. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. Doing the same, putting shiny down. Oops. Caught it. One 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. And we have two what I think are just gorgeous beads using the system of the color wheel, the triadic colors, and picking and choosing what colors were created when they were blended, and that just really pushes our color palette. So I'm going to make beaded dangles out of these, and you're going to see how they look finished. And so here we are, and this is where I think it starts to get really fun, because, sorry, that's my chair, because I can select beads now that are in that triadic color family, and I can go into selecting some of the green, and then I put a tiny wine colored one there, and then I brought in the back my primary green, and then my orange, and my main focus bead was the purple. And I did both of these, and let's look down at them, and both equally as nice. One using shading in the center of it, and the other one just using values. So continue to learn and explore using what you have learned, and branch out from what you usually grab when it comes to your colors.